Hey, well, the thing always loads up, and then it's telling me I'm 42 seconds in the program. But welcome to Crush This Monster Truck Podcast. It's Dan Chiche. Gosh, what's going on, guys? That was weird, waving with the. What's happening, guys? Brad's right now at work. He's busting his butt right now up in those oil-filled areas, and um, he's gonna be on the next couple weeks. Just giving you guys a heads up. I will not be for almost the whole month of October. I will be in Dallas, Texas, um, for the Texas State Fair. Uh, um, Not the whole month, but it's about like 20 something days long. So we're gonna Brad's gonna have people in and out and stuff like that. Um, our guest, so this Thursday in Fort Smith, Arkansas, I will be at with the Taste of Insanity, which is the Insanity Monster Truck Show tour. We have a Monster Truck Show Thursday night. It's gonna be myself, Devin Jones, and Barbarian, and the Mr. Basil himself. I think it's Aaron. That's Devin. Aaron. Devin. One of them two. Devastator. So we're gonna have those guys racing and have some fun and stuff like that. Um, so we're gonna have our guest on here. I think I'm gonna screw up his last name. I know I will because I'm not good at that, and I'm about to butcher it just as much as sometimes how I drive the truck. Salerno. Nope, he shook his head. Uh, he'll correct me when I see him. But he's our guest, and we're gonna learn about him. It's a pretty cool story. Uh, that he was in the timeline of where I was a diehard fan. Um, it was circled in my calendar every middle school, high school that Valentine's Day weekend was my break from reality. Normally the week beforehand, I started going to Wheeling, but I mostly went to Pittsburgh, and I went to both. But the timeline or the stories that he has told me, that is the Monster Jam, Monster Trucks, that I fell in love with. Um, and it's Blue Thunder, or the Marvel trucks, the DC trucks, the Turtle, Blacksmith, um, the WCW trucks, Bulldozer, those trucks, all the way to Captain's Curse, uh, Air Force Afterburner, Mohawk Warrior, and Escalade. Those trucks in general, and then you had Bigfoot and all those guys too. But that timeline during Monster Jam was what I really loved the most. Was the early 2000s to pretty much 2012, 13. That lineage after the end of the Advance Auto Parts sponsorship, I guess 2014. So from 97 to 2014, I love that. I love that Monster Jam, and then he was part of it, and he's still running today with Sugar King and stuff like that. But we'll learn about that, and then he has a really cool cat that he works with. We're gonna try to get him on another episode. Andy's gonna help us out. But enough talking for me. Brad will be on for the next couple weeks. Also, he may have some pre-episodes. He may bring some guests and stuff like that also. But for myself, also, congratulations for a wonderful career, Mr. Joey Sylvester, uh, sponsoring our high octane coffee, and him racing for almost from what 07 to 2013. Then he took a little bit of a break hiatus. Well, not 13. He owned. Then he raced trucks off and on throughout his career. So yeah, a very long career from 2006 to 2023, almost 20 years. Uh, running the bad habit, breaking records. Uh, winning percentage pretty high. He had some good equipment. He had some awesome equipment the late stages. But once again, congratulations. And also Tom Mentz. What a wonderful, awesome guy, cool guy to talk to. What a legendary career. Not a lot of drivers can reach the pinnacle of what he has done, for winning, entertaining fans, help change the industry. He this 2024 is his last year, so congrats on that. But we're gonna get this show rolling with a couple of our video sponsors, and then we'll have our cool interview. So here we go.
This isn't your typical motorsports podcast. You're listening to Crush This, a monster truck podcast presented by High Octane Coffee and J Concepts. A show where we take you inside the minds of your favorite drivers, past and present, of the monster truck industry. And now, your hosts, Brad Shaw and Dan Chichagash. Buckle in. The show starts now.
Hey, what's going on, Andy? I'm sorry for screwing up your last name, but I guess I'll do better next time.
Everybody does. It's okay. No, last name is Salerno, like the cookie or the pizza in the Chicago area.
I need to learn better English then. But
No,
I'll do it better next time. But man, how you been? I saw you a couple weeks ago at your place, running around doing some RC racing, doing some RC freestyle competitions on Instagram. Let's talk about that before we get to the kind of your story of, in your part of the monster truck industry.
Sure.
Talk about that competition that's on Instagram. I feel like it's a very awesome way to, even though you don't have to be, doing like Turner King or anything, you're still doing something. It keeps me up with RC ways of life also.
So we have the RCMT Freestyle Challenge on Instagram. Outlaws of Motorsports and Ryan B. RC are the host of that. We came up, a group of us came up with this idea a year ago. This is the second year of competition. So last year was the first year. So there were 6 of us in a group chat, led by Chad and Ryan, that we formulated this competition based off of what we had experienced doing the RC Amigos Challenge. And we thought we needed something a little bit more, where you actually have a competition of month by month, keeping points and doing the best, backyard freestyle you can with, no skate parks. There's rules, 2S battery to keep it more scale. I find it's a little bit more tricky when you have a 2S battery versus all that raw power on a 3S. But it's a fun competition. It's really grown this year, being year 2. This year it's grown tremendously. The competition was outstanding. They just came out with the World Finals video, which what the goal is you do 4-month 4-month, 60-second videos. No crazy, if you have any questions, you can always contact Chad or Ryan. Say if you have a crazy save and you want to know if it's going to be legal or counted against you, you can always ask them to reach out, ask any questions. But it's just a fun time, and it's go out, have fun, record the best video you can, turn it in, and compete with people all across the U.S. and the world, Canada. We had a guy from Australia last year in the competition. So it's really cool what it's turned out to be and how big it is now. And this week they just came out with the World Finals video for all the competition, all the competitors for the World Finals for this year. So the top 10, there's 3 categories. The top 3 in each category make it, and then the LCQ, or last chance qualifier, is selected by having the most total points throughout the 3 categories as the 10th person, and that person gets to make it to World Finals, which I was last year, which was really cool. And I finished 6th out of I think we had 30 people last year, so that wasn't bad. This year we're just going into World Finals. Top 10 are here. I believe I won my category this year, so that's pretty cool. Trailer Trash RC really helped us out with the pod setup that he had. We went and collected that over the springtime. He was generous enough to hit me up on Instagram and say, "Hey, do you want these?" And I'm like, "For sure." So my buddy John, JRW Motorsports, or RC Motorsports on Instagram, he's my RC buddy. We went over to LaPorte, Indiana, saw Gareth, picked the stuff up, brought it home, freshened it up a little bit, and we've been using it in the competition this year, and we've done pretty well with it. So
I'm watching the video right now of who's going to be in the World Finals, and it looks like I just started watching it. Isaac's in it, and yourself, yes, and then
mm-hmm.
Yep. So did they announce the last chance qualifier, or they already did that?
It's at the end of that video.
Oh.
They show you Lurch, and then they give you the LCQ.
So and that would be Outlaws.
It's his son, Dubs, yeah. Carson. Okay. Yeah, Carson made it.
Oh, look at that. But you know what? I started out really, really late, so
hey, it was great to have you in here, though. That was the whole point, is to get as many people as you can and go out and have fun. And that's what we wanted, and that's what we promoted with it.
Yeah, I hear you on that. And then, next year I'm going to definitely try to sign up and get the ball rolling with that, with a little bit of a stronger truck and stuff like that too. So if you just going to be open up. If you hear a meowing in the background, I got myself a cat. Yeah, his name's Goose. Just like the character from Top Gun. So,
nice.
Because when I come into the room, I always say, "Talk to me, Goose," and he just starts meowing and stuff like that. So, he's got the door shut on him right now, so he's gonna be meowing. If I let him open, he's gonna be jumping all over the place on the bed, and on my back. He will just be.
He wants to be the star of the show.
Yeah, well, that ain't happening. So, but yeah, let's talk about your, I guess, your monster truck adventure, which is very, very interesting to say the least. You were always I would notice that you've been a fan. What do you remember? What was the first show? What was the first time you were intrigued by a monster truck? And tell me the story on how you got your foot in the door with, I guess we could say, Monster Jam.
Yeah. So I go all the way back to the early 90s with monster trucks, seeing them at the fairgrounds by my, as a kid where I grew up. They would come with the county fair, and you'd see them once a year at the county fair. You would see them at the different fairs around the area. I've always been attracted to machinery, heavy equipment. I've always liked to drive skidsters, backhoes, stuff like that. So monster trucks obviously is a natural progression from that, being that it's a combination of many different vehicles combined into one. Obviously, I used to watch Tough Tracks on ESPN. Obviously, Gravedigger, Carolina Crusher, Bigfoot, all the big name, the Kong brothers, the Dane brothers, or Dane are the Kong brothers, the Breen brothers. Sorry, Breen Boys Toys. That was always so fun to watch as a kid because you could watch it on ESPN and show right up. Chicago, always liked to attend events at Rosemont Horizon. I remember when Tom was driving Monster Patrol, and Mancow used to be a morning radio host here in the Chicago area. And Mancow was on the wing of Monster Patrol, and I just thought that was the coolest thing. And I always liked Monster Patrol ever since then. And then hanging out with a buddy at an apartment complex in Naperville, and we come across this guy. He says, has a program, a USHRA program on the floor of his living room. And I pick it up, picture a Gravedigger on the front, and I say, hey, man, what's this all about? And he says, oh, I'm a tech official on the TNN TV show. And I'm like, come on, man. He's like, no, here, seriously, you know. I'm like, whoa, how do I get into this? And he's like, well, do you work? And I'm like, yeah, I work. He's like, all right. Nothing really happened right away. And then they had a show at, I want to say like Allstate Arena. And that was his early time when Tom was still in Goldberg. The first show I ever went to, I was club help. I think it's the best way to get your foot in the door if you can, is go to club somewhere. If you want to be a tech, I think. But I did club help for like 3 shows, and I just busted my tail. I was on radio for all 3 shows as a tech because I came in with the kid that got me in was his mom was known as the Monster Mom back in the day. She used to take care of all the crew guys in the early days of Feld. We're talking 2000, 2001, 2002, 2003. So I was a crew, or I was a club in 2000, 2001, 2002-ish is when I did it. I did Milwaukee, Miles, Springfield, Illinois, and Rosemont Horizon. And those were my 3 shows. My first one, I had Tom and Dennis, but Dennis got hurt. Brian Bartle drove. I had Brian Bartle and Little Tiger, Jim Kohler, and Deal Wilson in Virginia Giant. And I remember walking in that first day and down the tunnel and seeing everything up close and personal. I was like, this is awesome. This is where it's at. And then being part of the show instead of being a fan or sitting in the seats of a Monster Jam show, that kind of hooked me right then and there, being part of the show. Even as club help, you know, watching the Czech jump over the railing after a truck rolls over, and then you follow him out there and hold the fire extinguisher in case anything happens. And that was my introduction to Monster Jam, and kind of how I got my foot in the door, I suppose. And then it just kind of grew from there.
Oh, that was a production guy. Myself doing too fast of a quick camera switch. But, you know, the way I remember back then, the shows weren't at 7 o'clock. The shows were at 8 o'clock, and they would end at 10. You know, being a tech official, not a tech official, but a track crew guy, kind of, you know, starting out with the new I guess the new transformation of Monster Jam. You started at the 2000 level. That's when freestyle was a competition. That was the kind of the door of what you would see the future of Monster Jam would be today. Was the shows are always now bang, 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 bang. You know, 15 minutes for racing, then 2-wheel skill, then intermission, FMX, then donuts and freestyle. So they had so much going on. Back then was, you know, at some arenas, it was the wheelies, just to crush the cars, pretty much cool stand-up stuff. And then you had your racing as your first half. Then your second half would be freestyle or anything that's in between, like Galactron and Reptar or Megasaurus, you know, stuff like that. So,
Quads, FMX.
Yeah, Quad Wars. You had Quad Wars and FMX too, and stuff like that. Also, so you know, the shows were a lot longer, I think, back then. So Was everyone that was there? I don't know if how to say this as a question because I should be in the wrong. I'm in the wrong profession. Um, the shows were a lot longer, weren't they?
No, it seemed like they were, but it was always a 2 hour show. It wasn't, it was more of a motorsports back then than it is catered to kids now. You kind of saw, you see the transformation of when Monster Jam left a production company and went to an entertainment company, even though they've always wanted to be entertainment versus, I don't ever remember it being a legit point series in Monster Jam ever. It's always been entertainment as far as I've been known to it. But they've always tried to grow the identity, and they've grown it's something that they've crafted over. Where are we at with Monster Jam now? Almost 40 years. I mean, 30 years of Monster Jam. So that it takes time to perfect your craft, and realize in the early days Monster Jam was spun off to some different company every 4 or 5 years. I started out, it just come off of being Pace, which was SRO before that, to becoming SFX, to being Clear Channel, to Live Nation, to now Feld. And I went through SFX, Clear Channel, Live Nation, Feld. That's how many different regimes I saw in that. The shows got better. I thought Live Nation was the best parent company myself. That was your start of the Advanced Auto Parts, your big Ford sponsorship. Like 2007 to 12 was the what I would say the creme of Monster Jam, of building up to that big show and becoming that big show, and then starting to do European tours, and sending 10 trucks over there was a big deal for them back then. That took 10 trucks out of their fleet that they lost for 6 months, and they got back a month before first quarter started, and they had to go over those 10 trucks fast because first quarter was a month away and we had 16 weeks to go there. But it's something that they grew over time and to what it is now. And Feld put their hands on it now and made it the new circus, in my opinion.
So, let's continue on. You got into the track crewing side of everything. Mm-hmm. And okay, that's a lot better. I don't know, I'm working on this stuff. You were track crew. Who did you catch your eye, or how did you get to the next step in your career? Because a lot of people, I think you went for you took a different route. Normally, if you're a track crew guy, you would go tech official, but you went as a crew guy.
Well,
so,
I went.
Right?
So I started out as a tech. They asked me to go to tech school in the fall of 2002 for the 2003 season.
Okay.
So I went to tech school in 2002. And that was when they still had the old office in Aurora. Hell, they brought Gravedigger 8 for us to tech in the parking lot that year. And they had it set up on big tires right at the front door of the building too. It's great. But I mean, there were 60 people there, maybe total, maybe. I mean, you got to think about this, the early days when they had 3 or 4 shows a weekend, not 10. So I got in as a tech, and I did 2003. I spent my first year with Papa Speller, Mike Speller, so I was very lucky. That guy's monster trucks to the T. I mean, he knows anything and everything.
Papa
and
Speller.
To spend my first year, yeah, Papa, I love Papa. Spend my first year with him on the road, that was an awesome experience. And then I think you know him, Brian Roundman Richardson. He was my other tech official. I spent my year with him. And then we had an event manager by the name of Zach Cooper. And Zach was pretty cool. He left a few years later. I think he became a police officer somewhere, I want to say. But not too sure on that one. So, but then, yeah, after the 2003 season, I got hired on full time. I started doing displays in the summer with Bobby Z. doing Spider-Man and going around the country. I was the merchandise guy slash helper, I guess you'd say, for the display. So I sold the merchandise and T-shirts, and I'd help tie her up and down the truck and answer any questions the fans had, and did whatever that Bob needed. That they do when you do displays. Got a good experience on that. That was pretty cool. Got to be real good at tiring up and down a truck. Really good at pushing tires in and out. So that was a good experience. And then I went on the road for first quarter, and I was with Tony Farrell and Chad Fortune, and we had Power Forward and Blue Thunder. And Tony decided he wanted to drive Lyle's old truck. That was a fun year.
So you get on the road, you learn the
trial by fire.
The trial by fire way of life, with the monster truck side of it. You also, I'm a.
It was the early days. You had, there were, with all the Gravediggers and the chassis they had, we were up to like C20 something, 25. And that, C25 was the newest back in that day. What I had 13 and 16 were the ones that Chad and Tony drove that year, were the two chassis I had, I think, if I'm correct. But I spent 2 weeks in North Carolina at the shop working on Blue Thunder, and that was my introduction to, this is a monster truck, this is how we work on it, these are the parts, and here you go, have fun. And it was like, all right. And then we went on the road for first quarter, and it was learn as we go. And I was fortunate enough to spend my first month with Paul Cohen and Scooby Wells.
Scooby.
Mm-hmm. And Paul and Scooby took me under their wing and showed me the right way to work on a truck and to do it. And I learned a lot from those two, and I owe those two a lot for what I know about working on trucks, in the early days. And we'll graduate later down the line. But that was my welcome to monster trucks. This is how we work on them. And then when, the closest I got to home that year was Pontiac, Michigan. So I was gone for 16 straight weeks. That was a new experience.
Man, times have changed, because for me, I went to tech school, auto tech school, and I was emailing back and forth with Eric Swikart, and bounced back and forth until the fall of 2014. And then I just worked around the shop, and then I got flown to Columbus to meet the crew guys there. And it was I didn't really get a chance to work on monster trucks or the Monster Jam trucks until I got traded to work with Cole Vennard and Woos Bobby Bowers with Captain America and Gravedigger the Legend. So Chad Fortune and Adam Anderson. Then they started teaching me all the basics. There was a lot of guys that were working on these Monster Jam trucks that didn't even want a third guy there. They wanted to work it on themselves, like they had something to prove. Like the look at me, daddy, look at me. I take a picture, see how I go.
Well, okay, so kind of defend a couple of those people, and one of them is a damn good driver to this day and still drives to this day, but that to them was their pride and joy. So imagine having a nice shiny truck. Yeah. That's what their pride. That's kind of the way that I took a few of those guys, because there were a couple of those guys in my day, and after I stepped away from wrenching, obviously at that point, but those guys were, there were a few of them, we'll get into them later, but there were a few of them that their junk ran, or I shouldn't say junk, but their stuff, their equipment was top notch and it ran, and they did the best with what the company gave them to do and were competitive with that. Let's put it that way.
I agree with that. That's what I'm saying, but I was in a situation where both trucks were like that. and you're not learning
Oof.
from. You're not going to learn from that situation.
No,
Um, you know
no.
that
So back in my day when I started as a crew guy, there were two trucks in a trailer, right? And there was one crew guy for each truck and the driver. And I was fortunate that Tony was that he rode with us and he shared all his knowledge about the trucks because he's had, Wild Thing and Blue Ribbon Bandit and all that kind of stuff. So he actually knew how to work on the trucks too. And Chad at that point was a fly-in driver. Chad would tell you, "Oh, I feel something here, I feel something there," but not give you like what Tony would tell you. So I was given a truck and go, "Here, work on it." And I asked a lot of questions and I had a lot of people help me. And by week 3, I was pretty damn good because we had a lot of breakage in the first 2 weeks. So,
especially with Tony. Uh, but he had a representation of a truck that Lyle Hancock drove, and that was a former Gravedigger driver. So Lyle only
yes,
knew
sir.
one way and one way only to drive a monster truck, and that was go all out. There's 0 to 100 real quick. There's no, well, I can go maybe 75, maybe I can go 50. Not no.
No.
Lyle Hancock had to drive. I think he was the most pressured Gravedigger driver out there because of all the times Dennis Anderson got hurt in 92 and 93. Lyle had to drive like Dennis.
You
Lyle
have
had
to.
to, yes, exactly. He had to drive Gravedigger 3,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes 7, but mostly Gravedigger 3 to be
Mm-hmm.
competitive against Barefoot Fred Schaefer, Andy Brass and Bigfoot,
Yes,
Jack
sir.
Woolman Jr. and Taurus, Eldon DeFew and Taurus, Gary Porter and Caroline Crusher, David Morris. I can name them all and all and all. He had to make Gravedigger that way, so he had to drive it that way. The most pressured non-Dennis Anderson or Anderson family member to drive Gravedigger, I believe, was Lyle Hancock. And then the one your favorite, Pablo Huffaker, I
Yes,
think
sir.
he had pressure, but I think he took the ball and ran with it.
Oh,
He Pablo did his own version of what he thought Gravedigger would be like, and he put his own twist in it.
I love you guys. I thank you guys a lot because you guys made me go back and rewatch some of this early day stuff. And I started in '88 watching Tough Tracks, and I'm up to I think I'm at like 96 Penda now. But watching Paul Huffaker, as they used to call him back in the day before he got Pablo, and watching him in the Just Showing Off truck and watching him run his heart out, and knowing that he worked for Scott Stevens and that those guys are all connected with all their trucks and everything. I always liked it, and then when he gets the 4-link truck and he's still out there whooping people, I always thought that was great. And then to see him create and always stick out from everybody else with all the red on his truck versus, and it didn't look bad at all either with the Gravedigger, but that's how you knew it was Pablo. It was all red. And be honest, Pablo was the first. I spent a lot of time with Pablo in Milwaukee my first year when I was a tech guy or a club. It was Pablo and Tina, and they had 2 trucks there, and it was just those 2 for the weekend. And Pablo did double duty, driving the truck, wrenching on both Blacksmith and Gravedigger 10. And it was a Milwaukee mile show, so asphalt to cars to asphalt. So Pablo popped a tire, needed help patching it. So him and I were inside the tire grinding it out, put the patch in there. It was kind of cool. It was a good experience, and I did a lot of shows with Pablo over the years as a digger driver and as a tech official for sure. Um, he was probably between him and Charlie Pauken are the 2 digger drivers I did the most shows with, I would say.
Did Pablo ever offer you a position or offer you to move
No,
down to Texas?
no, because I always worked for the company at that time. And the only time that I ever helped Pablo out in the pits, other than working for the company, was that time as a track crew kid that was wet behind the ears in the early 2000s. So, but no, I've always worked for the company at that point.
So let's talk about also a little side gig that you did with that I was always interested in was you did a lot of the body work. You did
Yeah.
a lot of the body shop. So how did you get your foot in the door in that scenario when you were a crew guy? Was it the typical, like I'm learning with Hall Brothers, is when you damage a body, you gotta take the piece off and you gotta fiberglass the hell out of that and work on it. Not like today's Monster Jam where not a lot of technicians know how to fiberglass. If they do, that's cool. But not I when I was there, not a lot of them did. And they would normally try to fix with Lexan and drywall screws and then go from there. But there was one gentleman named John Sweeney. He Everyone was drywalling this and that. When he was with Monster Mount Dalmatian, he would put the top. Now he had the Merc, so he had the two piece.
That was
You
tough
know,
body.
yeah, the two piece, the
Hmm.
main body, and then you had the hood. And a lot of
Hmm.
times the damage was on the main body. He would take the main body. He made these. He made his own. He was a carpenter, so he made his own versions of these horse stalls or horse racks that fit perfectly on that Merc body. And he flip it over, or if he needs another guy to help him. Obviously, the body's big, and then he would just do his fiberglass. He would work fiberglass on the truck and
Hmm.
then flip it over, um, sand the area, bondo it, and then take it if it's a black spot, take a black paint, can of spray paint, make that black
Yeah.
spot. If it was a white, red, it didn't matter. But how was that back in the day for the bodies, and how did you get into, uh, you know, if there was a business card, I guess you would have a lot of it on it. But how did you get your foot in the door with the body work?
Okay, so the truck behind me, this side over here, as you can see.
The
Okay.
turtle.
Yes, sir. Okay, so Feld decided, or Feld, SFX would have been the company at that time in 2003, decided they were going to make a fiberglass mold in house to make the turtle body. And I was working for the company, doing odds and ends things because I had just finished up on the road first quarter 2003, and I was they were needing help at their little Chicago shop that they had, which was a little rental unit that they were renting at a place in Aurora, and they had the merchandise warehouse next to it in connecting buildings. So I helped make the plug, or the fiberglass plug that they made to use to make the mold for the turtle. I got to help create it. The shell, we used pink Celotex, which is like an insulation board for a home. Um, I helped, glue all those sheets of Celotex together so that they could shave the shell out of it. Um, the grab the different pieces of fiberglass so that they could use them to make the cab and the hood of the body. But it was a neat process to see how they made a plug to pull the turtle body, and I got to help with that. And I got to lay bondo on it and learn how to, lay bondo and sand bondo, and what they were looking for, and kind of got to get my hands wet early. Um, and then in 2004, they decided, or Clear Channel at the time decided they were going to have an in-house body shop. So they got a spray booth, and they had a shop on the south side of Naperville, Aurora area, and they had a paint booth in there. And I was working in the shop as a crew guy at that time, so I had a little knowledge of fiberglass from helping Tony on the road and fixing power forward the few times that it rolled over. Um, so I had a little bit of a knowledge from it, and then I took a hiatus from a little bit into '05 to about '07. I came back for first quarter of '07 as a tech official, and then after the season ended in '07 as first quarter, I needed something to do again, and they kept me on at the company and kept me busy, and that's kind of how I got to help move the shops. And when I helped move the shops, I started talking to some people and kind of got my foot in the door and said, "Hey, I'll do this. Hey, I'll do that." And they're like, "All right, well, we need somebody to do that." And so I didn't want to crew anymore, because that was the only thing that you could do, is the crew or be a tech. And tech isn't full time, crew is. But body shop was just kind of starting out in Chicago, and I was like, "Hey, this is the perfect opportunity." So I jumped on board. Eric Minger really helped me out in my career took good care of me, made sure I had work. He got me in the body shop, and then I worked with Scott Ford for a bunch of years doing all that kind of stuff, and it was awesome. We got to do Air Force Afterburner, the A10 Warthog that came out of our shop. I got to do the very first Mohawk Warrior. I did the very first Son of a Digger. I did the very first Nitro Circus, the one that Travis backflipped at his house. I got to do so many cool projects. Being the body shop, we knew months in advance what was happening and had to get the stuff ready to go, have stuff prepped and ready, painted for graphics packages or whatever needed to be done for sponsors. You know, and that's, I got my foot in the door because I work. And that's the main thing that they were looking for at the time, was people that were working. And yes, you can be a fan and work there, but when it's time to work, you better be working and not be a fan. And that's all I can say.
So let's go with a quick story about the Mohawk Warrior. You know, how did you guys get the materials and stuff like that to get that thing ready to go?
So Mohawk Warrior is just a Cadillac Escalade with graphics package on it, correct? And then the early days, I'm not sure what they make the Mohawk out of now, but when I made them in the early days, we were using rubber 2x4 blocks, and I would drill a billion holes in them. And then I would basically hot glue broom bristles into a block, right? That was shaped like a Mohawk. And it had to be X long, X wide, to fit, to look legitimate on the top of the truck. And then I used some Lexan and some black paint and some other stuff to keep the stuff straight up in the air, like if you'd see the glue in the hair, right? And then those were the first couple early Mohawks until they came up with whatever they use now. So that was the Mohawk Warrior, because that was the one that he ran in Vegas.
The ideas, like you were talking about, like I mean, yeah, Vegas. You know, there's so many different you know, the different trucks that came out in Vegas. You know,
you had Pastrana 199 switch to Nitro Circus at intermission. You know, Cam went out and raced and did a great job, and then me, Cam, Travis, Scott, Eric, and a bunch of other guys all flipped out 199 to Nitro Circus for Travis to jump in the seat and go lay down an awesome freestyle that year out in Vegas. Especially for the time that Travis had in the truck, and to be able to do what he did speaks a lot for his talent.
You know, like for instance, like you know, El Scorcho. That was a 1 year truck. But you know, like you said, you get a month in advance, or like, how do you know? Let's, for instance, let's say, okay, for instance, the Del Scorcho, or Air Force Afterburner. Did they come around and say, okay, this is what the truck will look like?
Yes.
Make this
There's
work.
renderings. Oh, of course. So you have, I'm sure you know him, Neil Vandenberg. Neil Vandenberg is Monster Jam's artist. He has been. I've known Neil longer than I've been in monster trucks. Let me put it to you that way. I met Neil before I ever started working for the company, and Neil's been with the company since the early 2000s. He is your artist. He gives you all your graphic renderings and all that kind of stuff. And Neil used to come down to the shop and go, "Hey guys," he would call us up and he'd be like, "Hey guys, we're working on a project here. Can you jig me up an F-150 body? I need to come down and take some measurements." "Of course, no problem. When would you like it done?" "Hey guys, I'm working on a project. Can you jig me up a Super Duty?" "No problem. Come on down." "Hey guys, how about an Escalade? We got you covered." And he'd come down, take his measurements, and then that's how they'd fit all the graphics on the body too. And know the kind of room that they got for sponsors and how they want to do graphic layouts and whatever. And then they would give you a rendering of the truck. They'd give you the sides, the roof, and the hood. And then if the wheels had if it had, you know, the circle caps on the wheels or whatever, they would give you the renderings of that and show you what it's going to look like. And then usually what would happen is we'd paint a base color, and then the graphic company would come in and lay the big graphics, or if it wasn't too bad, myself or a couple of the other guys in the shop would lay the graphics, and down the road it goes, you know. So it'd be all pre-put together, and all the guys have to do is throw bolts in it, put it on the truck, make their custom cuts to how it fits on their cage, bolt it up, and it's in place and ready to go on the truck.
I'm very curious also is do you remember when they came up to you guys and say, hey, we got this concept for the Batman truck and, make this work?
So I think if I'm correct, B-Boat made Batman.
Hmm. Over in
It's
Paxton
one.
here.
Yes.
Hmm.
They were your early makers of a lot of the bodies. Iron Man, Donkey Kong, B-Boat made those. I think he made Batman too. But Batman, it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces to Batman. No, 8 pieces, including the 2 trash cans that were the jets on the back. They used trash cans to make those. But
It
yeah,
just like you said, the different concepts and stuff like that. Obviously, a simple different design. Like for instance, the Superman cape. I remember you telling stories about the Superman cape,
2-piece.
2-piece. But you had to put the symbol on the back of that cap.
No, you had to put it on the
Fit.
cape,
The
and
cape, yeah, the cape.
the contours of the cape, man. That was tough. I don't think I ever successfully did it, but how often did you see it, for one? And for two, by the time you saw it, he was already going the other way.
Yeah.
So, but no, that was an interesting graphic to have to put on with the contours and everything, and you have to use your heat and your graphic paddle and get it all perfect, which is kind of why I have fun with the RC stuff, getting to do little graphics and stuff. It kind of brings back old memories.
Kind of late there, Devon, but he was asking about what's your opinion on the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles truck.
What's my opinion of it?
Yeah. Was there ever going to be different turtles, or was it always going to be Raphael?
So there were 2. Gary Porter and Brandon Harrington, and then I think Whit ran one too. Whit Tarleton. They ran the orange one. They had an orange one for a while, so they ran orange and red. I never heard anything of a purple or a blue one, but I made mine after Pablo's truck from Vegas World Finals 10. That was kind of what I went after because there were 2 other guys that had one, and they kind of did theirs. I wanted to be different and stand out with mine versus doing the same thing on a black chassis and having, it's red and it matches. I believe Armando Castro's is red. But his is on a black chassis with trailing arms. Mine's on a green chassis with link mount. I'm right on the housing with them. So it's just a show truck, but it's cool. It's fun. It's ready to go if it ever needs to be. Yeah. Show and shine at Hall Brothers, I believe, one year. Thank you, guys.
You're welcome. So for instance, like let's say here, a lot of the guys in the RC world follow a certain group. Like for instance, for myself, I have Hall Brothers Racing. Josh Rhodes does a lot of Gravediggers. Jeremy Mark does a lot of Taurus. So what inspired you to follow the timeline of Pablo Huffaker?
For that reason, for the Josh Rhodes reason, I suppose. Josh is the Dennis guy. He runs and drives like Dennis. He's got the raw, unadulterated horsepower. He likes to run the Goldyear tires. He likes to do that kind of stuff. The one thing and that's what a lot of people do, is they do Dennis, right? And I've always been a Pablo fan driving Digger. I like I guess it goes back to every time I'm supposed to do a show with Dennis is always hurt or doesn't drive that weekend. So we have Brian Bartle drive one weekend. I'm supposed to have Dennis in a show in North Carolina. Ricky only drives the truck for the whole weekend. One time I do have Dennis. It's a dirt track in Richmond, Virginia, out of all places, So, like I said, I spent a lot of time with Pablo and Chuck, and Chuck's truck never differentiated anything. It was just always a run-of-the-mill Gravedigger. But I always liked Pablo's red accents. That's what drew me into doing Pablo's truck, is the red accents. It'll set you apart from Josh Rhodes and his Gravediggers. And was it Cincerello on the East Coast runs them too, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So he's been running them for 20 years, and I respect the hell out of that guy. And so I just, my thing in the RC world is I want to be different. I don't want to do the same thing everybody else has.
Yeah, and you have so much lineage too. I mean, I know we have a just showing off truck with Jason Chodorus because he drove the truck, but
Mm-hmm.
that's part of that one. There's man, you know you
That's
do the
why I got
back.
my turtle,
Yeah,
because I saw it online one day or on Instagram, and I messaged my buddy in Florida right away, and I'm like, "What's this all about? I need one of those." And then right away figured out a way to make it different, and I had to get it.
you have the blacksmith. I know you have projects going on with the Willys trucks and stuff like that too.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean that right there is just the lineage and stuff like that Pablo has done for that.
I go back to when blacksmith was literally the bedsides and the tailgate. The only color on the bedsides and tailgate was the red Willys emblem on the tailgate, and it just said, literally just had the square box with the hammer and stone. It said blacksmith, and there was an anvil on the hood, and that was it. It was plain Jane, clean, crisp, and I was like, that is so awesome.
My favorite was the '05 one. I don't know. I like the little flame, not the little iron. I don't know, that hitting the fire type around
Yeah,
the
before it went to the sparkly yellow and red one.
yeah,
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 I'm right there with you. That was my next favorite one too. When it had blacksmith spelled out on the side of the truck.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So excuse me. Now we're you did your monster truck career and stuff like that, but a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people may not know that you are working currently with a legend of the sport, which is pretty cool to go with because I didn't race with him, but I fun run RC trucks with him a couple
You did.
weeks ago. So
Yes,
talk
sir.
about that.
Well, a good friend of mine now, Bobby Z. I met Bobby in 2003. I got to know the guy for about 2 days, and then they threw me in a semi with him for about a month and a half on the road, and I got to know the guy pretty well there. Um, we've been able to maintain a friendship ever since, and we're going on 20 plus years of friendship at this point. He's been a good person in my life, a mentor of sorts, and just an all around good guy and friend to have, and always there when you need something. I can't say enough good things about the guy. He's taught me a lot in the industry, about the trucks, how to hold myself in public with the fans, and how to care for myself and live a life on the road that you do in the monster truck industry in those times when we actually drove in the rig with the trucks. We didn't fly from show to show. We drove in the semi and went from show to show like you do now with Hall Brothers, Dan. You get the full road life experience where you stop at truck stops and put fuel in and clean the windshield and check the trailer tires and all the lights. And you stop and get what you need taken care of out on the road. You learn how to be a navigator and how to take care of yourself and eat properly, and it's the things that you need to know out on the road, and he was huge in that for me.
Now, we're gonna have him on in the future episode. We'll get him on.
We'll get
Uh,
him on one way or another.
yeah, we'll get Bobby on. But that's cool because his story. Not a lot of people know that he's been driving monster trucks for such a long time, and
Since the beginning.
knowing the ins and outs. Just like I said before. Thanks again for the card, but yeah, right there. I got the. If you take a look closely, that's the Skull Bandit 2 poster right there.
Nice.
Somewhere in
Nice.
California, it's doing its jump. But stories about him doing that for, you know, the Golden State Promotions. I have a Golden State Promotion T-shirt that
Yep.
I mean, people may not know, but still, I mean, that's still a pretty cool idea and stuff like that. And then we're just segueing in. Now you're becoming a Sugar King regular. Um, I tagged out, you tagged in, and I
I'll take
fan them.
over.
I fan them once again, but it's after taking the full time gig, it's just I mean the driving situation, it's just overbearing. Not
Well,
overbearing. I'm
I
enjoying
mean,
the hell of it, but
I
um,
mean, I would rather drive the big ones than the small ones too, but hey, those days are long gone. I don't see nobody knocking my door down to get in a chair, so I'll hold the controller and fund my little RC operation I got going on with Trigger King, like you said.
but I mean, it's a
So,
cool story that you're a example of what I wanted to do with my uh event, the Hall Brothers Classic, third annual, coming out November 18th. You can come by the 17th, but November 18th, 2023, stop by. Doors open at 7:30. Racing starts at 9:30 for four forms of racing plus freestyle. Look at in our I will post it on the Facebook page. Go take a look at that. Um, man,
please
Andy,
post it on Instagram too.
yeah, I do that. Yeah, you're an Instagram regular, not a Facebook regular.
No.
But talk about that event. I don't really gloat about my event. I know it's
All
naturally
right.
inordinate,
So you're
organic, but go ahead.
okay. So your event, um, the first the first competition I ever entered was RC Amigos for the RC stuff as far as Instagram goes. I've never done a live competition other than be a backyard basher or backyard freestyler, as you coined the phrase to me when I first met you as who I was, which is true. I mean, I've never legitimately raced, but I've had an RC monster truck since 2007, and I had two Wheelie Kings that were built to the hilt. You could launch them over the house and they'd land and drive away, and other than break the chassis in half. But I mean, that's besides the point. It was having fun, and those were hobby grades, so you could fix them. And Ryan Anderson gave me my two crawler kits so that I could make my trucks into monster trucks and not short wheelbase Wheelie Kings, which was really cool because we had the sponsorship with HPI. I got my first one from Chad Fortune, out of all people. I did some work for him around his house when he lived in Indiana, and he tossed me a Wheelie King, and I was like, thanks, bro. And so that hooked me back into the hobby again. And I've had them all the way. I had my Wheelie Kings until I sold them to buy my SMT 10s, in 2020 or before, 2020, somewhere around there. And then I graduated to the SMT 10 platform, and then the LMT dropped, and now, well, here we are now. So, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, talk about that event. I mean, it's a funny
So
story because I I posted an ad and then you had a couple friends talk about it because you were worried about you don't want to make yourself look like an ass. Let's just say.
yeah, so my buddy in Florida was giving me a hard time. He's like, you should go. And I'm like, man, I don't want to make a fool of myself, and he's like, don't worry, you'll be fine. Just go. And I only had two SMTs at the time. They were pretty well built, but the LMT was relatively new. And the other cool part about your event is that it's, racing RCs at a real monster truck shop. And I had never been to the Hall Brothers shop before. I've always seen them out on the road somewhere, talked to them out on the road, but never been to the shop. And so I asked my buddy if he wanted to go, and he's like, yeah, why not? So we loaded up the car and we headed down for the first event. And your first event was an open house too, which made it even more spectacular. I felt like there was a lot of people there that year. The cool part about that event was you got to meet some of the people that you know and respect on Instagram. I got to meet Josh Rhodes for the first time because he was a fan of my turtle. and I was a fan of all his stuff. I got to meet you for the first time because I had followed you at that point and heard, I was picking up the Trigger King thing and looking at that and noticing the who's who was going to be there. I know Lonnie and Jason from early in the days of Monster Jam when Jason drove Gravedigger and Lonnie was in High Roller, and then Jason drove Batman. So I got to say hi to those guys after not seeing them for a bunch of years. And then we got to race RCs, and I had way more fun than I ever anticipated I would racing in that event. And I came home, told my buddy in Florida, we need to build a fleet of trucks. I'm going racing in Trigger King next year. I don't care about the 4-hour drive down to Field of Dreams Raceway. We're going. And I started building the fleet, and I built a fleet over that winter. And I was ready to go because of your event. And because I only raced 2 trucks, and I saw there were we had retros, we had
Sport Mod, LMT,
and Pro Mod.
and Pro Mod.
No, did we have LMT the first year?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So yeah, so
it was really spec related though. LMT was really a spec. It was out of the box, guy out of the box and race type deal, like you guys did at Horizon Fest.
Yeah,
buying it straight up at the tent.
We'll get there in a minute. But I did too much thumb twiddling at your first event because I didn't understand, and I wasn't ready for the magnitude of what Trigger King really is.
Yeah.
And for the trucks that people had, and that was the other reason I wanted to go, because my buddy in Florida kept pushing me and saying, "Go look at other people's stuff. Go look at other people's trucks." Da 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 da. This is when I met Josh Zimmerman with Freestyle RC, and I learned what Freestyle RC was and what I was missing out on. This is when I met John Arnold with JB Scale Graphics and met a really good friend in him down there for the first year because of the involvement with Ryan Caputo and Empire State Monster Trucks with the Ripper truck. John and I both have a Ripper truck that we run here and there, courtesy of Ryan. So that first event got me to meet a whole bunch of people in the RC world and gave me that racing bug that I need to come out and do this. And like I said, I went home and built a whole fleet. I had 2 sport mods. I had 2 pro mods. I had everything ready to go for that next year at Trigger King. Less some retro because I'm not a fan of the Clodbuster, but oh well.
But still, I mean, you came back last year in 2022. We had less, I guess, guests watching, but I think we had more racers.
Yes.
Last year.
Because last year, so your second event was more geared towards the RC, which was cool because it opened up the door to meet some more awesome people like LVC, RC, and a couple of the other people that we had met there. Mike Buffka with Brass Ring Fab, I got to meet him for the first time. We got to see Troy with Troy's Hobbies again. But you had expanded out to where the merchandise trailer was the first year. We had pits all the way out there that year. I mean, you had quite a few people out there that were pitting. I mean, if I remember correctly, because I went and did the walkthrough and looked at everybody's equipment again. I walked upstairs to see, well, first of all, we helped Lonnie carry everything in the night before.
He debuted that First Blood truck.
Yep.
The Freestyle RC one. That was nice.
It was.
And then Freestyle debuted pretty much. That event was the debut event for his Leafer, pretty much in the public eye. I mean, he may have ran in different events, but there were a certain group in St. Louis that didn't like it. But I was trying to prove that my event, people may get confused about it. It's Trigger King rules outside of freestyle.
Yes.
But it's open door for anyone that has an idea for solid axle. No T-Max, no Stampedes, none of those. Has to be a solid axle truck.
Right.
And I put that open if anyone wants to, because what people may not know that is a huge equalizer to the event is the slick surface flooring that you have to race and the tight confinements. I consider my track, which is Mark Hall's Work Bay, as the Martinsville Speedway of RC racing.
If you can navigate that track, you're doing all right. And
Yeah.
you got to know, first of all, I'll say this. After racing at your event for 2 years, entering 2 more classes last year than I did my first year with the sport mod, that track will eat you alive if you don't know your equipment. And you got to make those corners. That chicane track you had last year was awesome. When you had to navigate the chicane to get up to the first jump to make the corner, that was an equalizer right there, because a lot of people were hitting that chicane and they couldn't make that. And
or
that
mini Vegas style.
Yeah, but that concrete floor, that slick corner to make this track to come back towards yourself, it's rough, man. It's rough.
And then you also have to throw in that I put boundaries.
Yes.
Poles
get in your way real quick there.
They come out real fast. You can ask CCRC.
Yep.
They just jump up and appear really fast. The thing is I try to eliminate the accident that happened last year. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't really an accident, but
the RC in the lap.
The RC in the lap, I mean, that was all fun and games and stuff like that. But I was like, yeah, that's cool and all, but we need to set up some type of boundary for spectators and not be somewhat in danger. What happens if the guy wasn't paying attention and cracked him in the head?
Exactly. I'm just saying, or that could have been a kid, a spectator's kid or something. And that's for real. And there's rules in the real stuff. There should be rules in the RC too. And you did a great job, and you've done a great job with your event and the rules. I enjoy the racing down there. I think it's a little bit more lax than Trigger King. Trigger King is those guys are big time, man. That's no joke down there. You gotta be able to run with those guys, man. There's some heavy hitters down there, and it's been great for me. I'll say that. I've had a blast.
It's starting to become I'm enjoying it now, where it's becoming a circle on the calendar. Like, I have Josh Zimmerman, Mr. Freestyle RC, telling me, hey, I can't wait. I circled the calendar. We'll be there.
I've already got my hotel room booked.
You're already, you mean that for you, it has to be traditions. I mean, it's the first deal and everything that you did.
I mean, let's see here. Besides the Childresses, I think I would be, and maybe Troy, because didn't Troy come last year too?
Yep.
I mean, we're the only people that've been there all 3, or going to be there all 3 years.
Yeah, you, Troy, and the Childresses.
Yeah.
And John Arnold.
Yes, John's been there all 3 years, correct.
And Bob, Chris Parrish.
Yep. Isaac and Aaron.
Yep.
Yep.
There's a bunch, but for people that, one fella also, the guy from Ohio, the Funky Monkey Truck, he's been there the last 2 years too, and that is what I love. He doesn't run any leagues. I think he runs a little bit of the NCTP, the Eric Rush, the show over there. That
the Ohio event.
Yeah, he only
runs sport mod though, right? He's got 2 trucks, right? He's got the monkey truck, and then he's got something else, and he only runs sport mod class.
Yep.
And that's it. He's like Gherkin Senior. Only runs sport mod, and then he's done.
Yep. And that's still cool to see people like that come in. Troy brings friends that clear from Utah to race with us. He was at the open house too, but that is very, I mean, Devin said here, when you came to the Bigfoot open house and raced your RCs on the gravel lot, was it a challenge to control? Yeah. But it's different in this one because it's smooth. Okay, let me rephrase that. We're racing on a work floor.
Yes.
That
a slick concrete floor.
Yeah, that 51 weeks out of the year, Mark Hall has either a monster truck, a garbage dumpster, or a semi in that bay that is working. That day of, so hours before Andy and them get to the building, I'm
As we get to the building,
huh?
as we get to the
Yeah,
building, you're still moving stuff out.
I am mopping
Hmm.
for the 6th time with Simple Green on the floor. And it's still not, let's just say, I guess, competition worthy, but we just let her eat. And
But there's a mystique to your event, like I said though, Dan, and that's
yeah,
because it's racing what we all like in the mini monster trucks or the RC monster trucks at a real shop. That right there nullifies anything that has to do with the track, just because you can put your controller down, walk around the corner and be like, "Hi, Ramunition. Hi, Raminator. Oh, hi, Ride Truck. Oh, I'm going to take my picture." And you can touch it, and nobody's going, "Don't touch it. Don't touch it." You're encouraging people to look at them and ask questions, and along with racing. And
you
that's,
see the new chassis. You see a little
yeah,
bit of a history timeline in one of the areas of the bay where you see
not only
all.
that, but it's on the walls. Read the
Mhm.
walls of that shop, man. The walls of that shop are history. Are you kidding me? I mean, I enjoy that. Like, it was neat to see Mark's area where he builds drive shafts. Nobody, and when Tim points it out and says that, it's like, oh, that is so cool. All right, that's neat. And then you see the
Mhm.
engine room, and you see where like you said, the chassis was on the frame table for the last 2 years we were there. So that was neat to see and be set up right next to it, to where I'm putting my toolbox right in front of the new chassis on the frame table. I think that
And
right
you
there
see the
vindicates the track. Yeah,
and you also see the old chassis that's right next to it that's transferring over to the new one. You know,
exactly.
so every year I try to do the track itself's a little bit different. This
Hmm.
time we're gonna go a little simplistic. I think we don't need to go to the complication levels, I guess, with some of the tracks. And I like I said, I want to make it simplistic.
Hmm.
Once again, outside of Mike, Adam Munns from the RC Fest, he represents Horizon.
He
Uh,
does. He does a great
outside,
job too.
and the cool thing is outside of um the event itself, I have a lot of people helping out. I mean, Horizon Hobby has a booth that people take a look at with Adam and his girlfriend Mackenzie run that
Hmm.
stuff. I mean, even though we're in the same direction,
Hmm.
one time, Jason Rona from J Concepts, one of the sponsors, they bring out giveaways, but
Yep,
he donated his monster trucks to be on display for
he
people to
did.
look at. JB Scale Graphics helps out. Freestyle RC, Cal RC, they're doing it again this year with sponsorship, with
Nice.
trophies. When you win overall in my event, you get this magnetic, decent size magnetic, not a small size, a work magnetic mat for winning overall in general. Um,
Those are nice.
that the just small token of what they do, which is really really helpful. And I can't thank them enough for what they have done, what they can do and help out. And my event, just like Horizon Fest, if you want to buy LMT, it's there. At sometime they'll give away LMTs. uh you know
Hey, didn't you give away one year?
yeah,
Yeah, that's
I
what I thought.
gave away two of them in one year. Gave away one of them last year. No LMT last year.
No
SMT
LMT
builders
last
kits.
year.
It
Yes.
was SMT builders kits, a crap load of them last year. But 2 years ago was LMT, two LMTs, and then trophies and
Yep.
medals and stuff like
Yep.
that for the event.
Yep. And
Um,
you had the magnetic mats too
hmm
the first year.
and another thing I really wanted to push was the giveaways too. A lot of people may not know, which is another thing. If you're there, it may not be racing. If you're there for the giveaways, that's more for me. I mean, that's helping bring people out. And
All I can say is buy raffle tickets. Buy lots of raffle tickets.
He was the overall winner for the giveaway
Oh,
competition.
was I?
Yeah, but
I
you
was
also
giving stuff away.
but still, I mean, JB Scale Graphics gives wraps of the Hall Brothers trucks that doesn't really get a chance to do. I think you have one.
Right here.
Yes. I mean, you don't get a chance to get a lot of these.
I've got another JB Scale wrap right here, which is a very near and dear one to me. John did this as a favor for me, and he came up with this for me.
Oh,
So
okay.
I got a couple more of these. I've got a select few that are going to run it for me in their series as well. But it is a pancreatic cancer body. My mother passed away from pancreatic cancer last year. That's why I wasn't able to race in Trigger King. That's why this year is my first year instead of last year. Like you said from your event, meeting John and the awesome guy that he is, he helped me out tremendously and had Michael Arnett design that wrap for me and was able to print it out. And he gave me 3 or 4 of them along with wrapping that body for me. So I owe John a huge thank you and for that. And it's really cool.
Maybe we could work something out here. Maybe we could talk to John and you, see if we can also make that a separate raffle, and the proceeds go to the charitable cause of helping pancreatic cancer.
That'd be awesome.
If you find that for us, and I'll push that for this year's event. If you guys want to raffle for that event, that does not proceed towards the program, does not do anything. That will go strictly to
cancer research
and development to help people in the situation. So if anyone wants to
we can definitely figure something out for that. We can talk to John too for sure. So
we could do that. That just be a separate entity that will go proceeds only and to that, and go from there. If I need to send that to St. Jude or
something,
like
somebody, I'm just all for it. I mean, it's just that was the only reason I didn't go race last year. Had my mom not been sick, I'd have been down there for Trigger King last year and been probably way more improved for this year, but that's all right. That's for next year now. So
I hear you, but we'll try to push more. I just contacted hotel people, like you said, you got a hotel room, but I always try to supply and help out with hotels and stuff like that, and then lunch is on us there at the event. So if you guys want to, November 18th. 2023, doors open at 7:30. Racing starts at 9:30. But if you want to be there a day beforehand, go ahead, because pit stalls are first come, first serve, pretty much. And I try, and Andy can attest to it, I try really hard to try to get as pits. I don't try to put people in the back 40. I don't try to, put someone in the ground. I learn every year to try to make it pit worthy. So we may open up more stuff for next year, and I'm hoping to God that the weather would be 10 times better, that I could open up the doors and we could do some pro mod straight line racing and let those babies fly out of the
way. You're asking for a lot, man. That's that's my birthday weekend, buddy, and it's usually snow by then, man.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So. But no, I'll attest that first come, first serve for the pit stalls. But you set a deadline and we can be there at a certain time. And when you allow us to come in, we come in, because you do work in a working shop, and they do, Fridays is a work day during the weekend. We're not going to come in and put the weekend fun before the work day is over on Friday, even though some of us may take that day off of work this year.
Yeah, but still, I mean, they come by and have fun, and it's a pretty much a fellowship, I guess. Everyone's just BSing, having fun. Like
you
Mike,
get to meet a couple of monster truck legends that happen to walk through the shop once in a while too.
Right. Yeah, Mike Bufka. Sometimes he brings out something new, and you could test drive it and stuff like that. But like you said, you talk to legends. I mean, it's cool to see. It's cool. I always thought it's cool to, have. You have Mark and Tim Hall, then you have Lonnie and Jason. that's one half of a typical monster truck show, or a monster truck show back in the day. And and possibly Bobby Z. Hopefully he come by, and if you need a break, I really would love to have him there.
We'll get him one day.
Just to have him there, and different people in general. The one year I had Jeff Cook. I had
I'm trying to get him to come down for the day. I'm gonna bring his truck with me and kind of see if I can't strong arm him to come down, because he's more of a day traveler now. He's got some unfortunate circumstances, and he's a caregiver for his mom. He's got to take care of his mom, and that's what's first and foremost right now. So he likes to, do his travels in a day and come back because he needs to be there for his mom, and I respect that in the most, in the most ways possible. So if I can accommodate him by, bringing his truck down, having it all set up and ready to go for him, all he's got to do is show up, shake hands, say hello, race for a little bit, have a good time, and then he goes home. That's what I want. Because that's what I want when he comes over to, when we run our trucks in the schoolyard over there, and we set up all the ramps and everything. And we're doing that Sunday with a couple of the guys from Trigger King, and I'm getting Bobby out, and John's coming over, and we've got Garrett from LVC coming down. So we're gonna have just a fun old bash session this Sunday. But that's what it's all about. It's getting the controller in your hand, go out and have fun.
That's awesome. Man, it's good talking to you. I mean, it's always a good talking to you. It's good to call you my friend. And
I appreciate that. Same here.
Man, thank you. Should
we do the quick Horizon story real fast?
Yeah, go right ahead.
All right. So you'd alluded to it earlier about LMTs, and they had the big dollar tent there at the Horizon Fest, and we came back with a golf cart with 4 LMTs on it, and like Dan said, we had to two of us had to go purchase them so that we could run in stock class racing because they were throwing a fit about tires. So we did the inevitable, walked over to the tent, made a few purchases, came back, threw a battery in it, went out and raced it, and that was the fun part with it.
I mean, that is the Open Door Cool also event. If you have a chance to go Horizon Fest,
absolutely.
You have RCs. Absolutely. You have RC racing, monster trucks,
buggies,
airplanes, jets, tractor pulling, rock crawling. Occasionally, some guys bring full-size vehicles over just to hang around and have fun. So,
I mean, we got to see what we see. We got to see Raminator this year with Dan Agash do a car crush. That was pretty darn cool. And then he came over and raced with us in the RCs. And then we got to see King Sling, and we had a couple of representatives from Monster Jam there, and Ryan and Weston and Bari. So it was cool to get to see them and race with them too. But I think the highlight was seeing Dan do the car crush, man. That was
that's it's way us thanking them and them thanking us. It's been a very good partnership with Horizon and stuff like that, but just the atmosphere in general. I mean, the Ring of Fire, people camping out,
the candy drop for the kids.
Yeah, the candy really drop, the long jump.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. That was really cool. I thought the what was it, the King of the Hill table?
Mm-hmm.
That was pretty neat. I really thought I liked it the Midway with all the different products such as Castle and RC Car Action. You could go up and talk to all the reps from those businesses. And then you had the buggy racing going on, and you had like those pro buggy racers, and to watch them guys race around that track was just awesome. That was really neat.
The 8-scale buggies, those guys, man, full
right
tilt
behind
buggy.
Where you guys were. Yeah.
Full tilt buggy.
No doubt.
My truck collected all the dust from them, so you're welcome.
Your white shirts were brown by the end of that weekend.
Right. But, man, thank you for being on, Andy.
My pleasure.
Like I said, we'll try to get Bobby on also. someday, but right now this month is going to be different. Brad may get some people off and on stuff like that, but still,
For sure.
you know, any social media people can follow you at?
What just ran what is it? 229 Motorsports on Instagram. That's my RC page. That's where I post all my stuff. It's where I try to give love to all my sponsors that I've picked up in my first year RC racing. Big thanks to Brass Ring Fab, Bitchin' Bodies, JB Scale, Freestyle RC, and to Black Market RC. Without those people, 229 Motorsports wouldn't exist. Dan, thank you for having me on the Crush This podcast. This was really cool to relive some of the heyday of Monster Jam and my tech and crew experience and going to the body shop and doing all the traveling and what you do now, and the life that you live now.
Yeah,
So
like I
thank you. I
said,
appreciate it.
like I said, you lived in a timeline where when I was a kid and I watched Speed, I bought the World Finals DVDs. I circled my calendar for Pittsburgh, even though occasionally I went to Wheeling, which was always the week beforehand.
Were you a Mellon Arena kid?
Yes, I was a Melon. I was the Igloo boy.
Were you there when Chucky stood it straight up?
Yes.
Okay.
I was there also when Tony Farrell rolled it over. My first ever rollover was there.
Nice.
I was there when Adam was driving Gravedigger.
Mm-hmm.
Not Dennis.
20?
Yep.
Yeah,
20.
when he was in 20.
I circled the calendar that the first time ever that Tom Mentz was driving Max D by himself. There was not a Gravedigger. Max D was the headlining truck there. And
Wow.
I think it was 09.
Wow.
Max D was by himself, but Mark Hall and Raminator was there. So he didn't really have a good dominating performance that people thought, because it was a stacked lineup that year. You had Pastrana 199 with Cam.
Mm-hmm.
You had Safe Auto Minimizer with Mark.
Mm-hmm.
Then you had Tom by himself.
Should have had Candace. You should have had Candace and Mutt too, right?
No, Tom was by himself. No, there was only 3 Feld trucks that show, I think. No, it wasn't. It was another truck there. I can't remember, but it wasn't Monster Mutt Dalmatian.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah,
they did jockey trucks around, because I remember one year I crewed for Carl Van Horn and Gravedigger 23 at Allstate, and his teammate truck went out to Colorado for the weekend instead.
I'm leaning towards Team Suzuki.
Bobby Parr?
Yes.
Or Kathy? Bobby Parr?
Bobby. 09. I think that was Bobby, wasn't it?
Yeah, maybe around that.
It was a one-off gig, because then something, I don't know what Candace was doing, but it wasn't Candace's truck was not there. But you had also Viper with Richie Blackburn. You also had Screamin' Demon with Jay Snyder.
Mm-hmm.
But then you also had Mark Hall and Raminator, Jeremy Dishman and Ramunition.
So that's a 2-truck team.
Mm-hmm. And then
so would you have 8 trucks there?
8 trucks there, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Instigator.
Oh, Lionel Easler?
Yep. Lionel. Okay. Yep. Instigator was there. So Safe Auto, 199, Max D, Instigator, Ramunition. Yep. That's right. There was only 3 company trucks there. So I don't know.
Well, yeah, because for the longest time, Tom used to travel. Tom was the only truck besides Dennis that traveled alone. Nobody teamed up with him. So Tom could put his Bronco or his whatever he wanted in the back of the trailer with the truck wherever he wanted to go. But Tom's was the only one besides Dennis that the truck traveled alone. It never teamed up with anybody. And then later down the line, obviously Tom and whatever bulldozers with him or El Toro's with him travels with him now.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was it. The Suzuki, Team Suzuki was there when
because that lasted till like 09, right?
Yeah.
And then they were done.
Yeah.
After that, Bobby didn't drive anymore after that.
No, I think it was nope, I never seen Team Suzuki. It was Sobe. That was 2007.
Yeah, that's
So,
early.
yep. Team
S10,
Sobe.
Kathy Winston.
That was on the Firemouth body.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, yeah, that I was a huge Pittsburgh. I was a Pittsburgh guy. You know, a lot of times though, when I see wheeling, it would be Virginia Giant, Black Stallion, Rap Attack. You know, the normal Thunder National style monster trucks there, full bore. The years that I was there, you would occasionally see Samson or Mountaineer, stuff like that. But then I started traveling to Dayton and Columbus, um, because I always knew Columbus was the first weekend of that year.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would go see Wheeling, Pittsburgh, and then and close to March I would go see Dayton, and then then I had family in Syracuse. So when the Carrier Dome opened up in 2012 or 11, 2011,
It was 12.
12,
It was
one of
12 or
those years.
it
Yeah.
was 12 or 13 at the Carrier Dome finally accepted Monster Jam because at that time I had one of the dirt coordinators and one of the dirt guy slash drivers living with me
Mm,
out west of Aurora. So that had been right around that time because Syracuse was the dirt coordinator's hometown, and
okay.
he was all
Well,
excited about doing the dome.
so yeah, that was pretty much my establishment to get my foot in the door and stuff like that and go through there.
Mm-hmm.
But man, but thank you for being on. And
Of
like I
course.
said, guys, it could be a pre-recording or a hangout with Brad. No guest next week. I'm sorry, but work's work. So or may not be an episode based off of Brad's working over there in old Canada. So once again, guys, uh, I'm Dan Agosh. This is Crush This. Like he says, if you have friends or family, talk to them, have some conversation. Not even a friend or a family. If it's just a random person, talk to them. If you know them from work, talk to them. Also, for Matt Schultz, give blood, donate blood, help out. And like Brad always says, keep the rubber side down and the shiny side up. Peace and good night.